This is Unpause It, a podcast by a family of geeks. I'm Lady Disdain, and I'm 43 years old.
I am the sauce underscore, and I am 11
underscore the data bytes 41.
I'm Furious Girl, and I am 9.
All right, so Spider-Man Homecoming is the movie we're talking about, and I am Lady Disdain with a Y, and I am driving this one. This is my choice to drive this one, but it also came up in rotation. He is my favorite superhero ever. So it's really the only reason why I like these movies is because this is the third set of Spider-Man movies in the last decade, it feels like, maybe 15 years. We've had Tobey Maguire, we've had Andrew Garfield, and now we have Tom Holland playing Spider-Man in Spider-Man Homecoming, which leads me to ask if the Databytes would please cover the movie specs for this film.
Speaking of those other Spider-Man, we are on our third Sony Spider-Man in the movies. Who to play it? His name is Tom Holland. He is very British. You hear him talk without his English, with his American accent. It's wow.
Yeah.
You might need subtitles sometimes.
He is. He's got it's almost like a Cockney accent. He's crazy.
Almost.
Crazy.
It's great. And he's got a great tone to his voice and everything too. And he was cast recently as the young Nathan Drake in an upcoming Uncharted movie. Believe that when I see it though. But he was attached to it and has been cast at it.
I love Uncharted-ness. You know, Uncharted is a game where you get to kill people, shoot guns, and do whatever you want to. I'm happy.
It's like Tomb Raider with it's a dude.
Totally. It was directed by John Watts. I don't know exactly what other things he has done, but Michael Keaton in it, Robert Downey Jr., we have age-appropriate Aunt May, Marissa Tomei, Jon Favreau, Gwyneth Paltrow, Zendaya as Michelle, Donald Glover as a small but kind of a key role.
Yeah.
You know, he is a big nerd in his own right, so he definitely wanted to do this, get in there, and apparently he's like, I got a nephew that's hinted at Miles Morales. When did this come out, kids? What was the day it came out?
A day.
I don't know. Was it a summer movie?
Yes.
America.
Was it? It was.
July 4th.
Was it your birthday?
Close. July 7th.
I got
The
so
sauce
close.
was really close.
You were really close.
Of 2017. So this is our coming up on our closing shows of our series 1 of Unpause It.
Yes.
Hammering out a lot of kinks. Thanks for hanging out with us and thanks for growing with us. We want to acknowledge that almost every podcast will sound different. We've been trying different things, different areas. And you may or may not hear some loud motorcycles, hot rods, drag racers going up our street. We could not record in the Unpause It sanctuary.
Sanctuary.
Right. It's undergoing a minor floor renovation, which will again change the sound.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, but it's not for the sound. We're doing it because the carpet down there, and we have a cat, and
It's not happiness.
we're not going into details on that one for sure.
Well, we did give him a lot of details there. Nothing to give away.
Nothing too graphic, I think. But I wanted to point out that Marissa Tomei was first seen in Captain America: Civil War.
Yes.
Alongside Robert Downey Jr., who they used to have a thing way back in the day when Robert Downey Jr. was way into the drugs.
Were they in another movie?
And they've been in other movies together too. I can't remember what they are, but this is a pretty loaded cast. I liked it, and it wasn't super character heavy as far as what we're about to see. How many 78 different characters in Infinity War? So this is a little bit different.
Well, we've got the movie specs, and now let's move into, I feel it's appropriate, and since I'm driving, it's about what I want. I do feel it's appropriate to talk about superpowers, because we did see Spider-Man in Civil War, and saw him swoop in we talked a little bit about this kid's superpowers. So I'm going to hand it over to the sauce first. What do you have to say about Spider-Man's superpowers?
Okay, Spider-Man superpowers. I ain't got nothing to say. You all know who Spider-Man is. Just
Yeah, but what if they don't? What if they're new to it? So
well, then curse you.
Podcasts that Don't curse anymore.
Okay, fine.
Some kids are
Fake
younger
curse.
than you guys, and they have not seen Spider-Man.
What's your reaction to his powers?
Yeah.
How did you
Oh.
feel? What were your
I feel like
impressions?
I feel like he's a powerful kid. Can I say a weakness real quick?
No, because we're not there yet.
Okay.
But hand it over to the G, to the...
Hello. And the superpowers I have are webs and strengthness.
Strength is a big one. Do you have some?
So you said webs, right? But
That's not exactly it.
I do really like that these webs could run out. He ran out on the ferry, and he was reloading them. If you notice, there was a little scene where he was reloading his web shooters. I think that's a little bit better than the Tobey Maguire one, which was a little too pubescent. He would like inadvertently shoot out webs out of his wrists because he had a gland on his wrists. I like it that it was actually technology that brings him closer to a young Tony Stark in the MCU. It makes him, as a high schooler, able to concoct this type of thing up there. I mean, he's not Shuri, Dr. Banner, maybe even Doctor Strange level, because Doctor Strange is he's very specific though in his neurosurgery. Those other ones are more technological. So, but he is another genius superhero. Another power I would like to ask, I asked everybody, what did we not see as far as superpowers?
Spider sense.
Spider sense. We never saw it in this movie.
Right. We didn't really see that kick in. Although you can see evidence of it.
Right. And it was a little like maybe a little bit here, a little bit there, but the Infinity War trailer, when all his arm hair stood up, Spidey sense, gave me some Spidey sense.
Not like the Drax Spidey sense.
My nipples!
Oh, I can't wait. That's all. Or we've already actually recorded that one. It's good. Yeah, I love Peter's superpowers, and this does harken back to Civil War a bit, but you just see so much evidence where he is. I mean, and granted, Iron Man tells him, well, if Cap wanted to lay you out, he would, but you see a lot of evidence that Peter is stronger than Winter Soldier, possibly as strong as Cap.
Oh, what? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, he held a whole
Yeah.
thing together.
He's got mad strength. And then in the end, of course, when you see where he's got to basically push tons of rubble from off of himself, and he does. So he's got massive skills and strength. I also wrote down that he has the Stark suit, aka Karen, that he has a suit in this, which a little bit determines what he's able to do, some of the added features of what enhances his power. So
Skin tight Iron Man suit is the line from the movie.
that's what he says, a skin tight Iron Man suit.
There's Iron Spider in the comics, where Peter Parker becomes Iron Man, Spider-Man.
I don't think that's Peter Parker. In most of the series, it's a different character that becomes Iron Spider.
Okay, I'll give you that. There's more than one person who has donned Spider-Man. There's more than one person who's been Thor. This is comics. We've got 60 years of all kinds of rebooting, resetting, trying to get into the zeitgeist that they're in. You know what that means?
No.
The spirit of the day. The spirit of today is Syrian bomb.
Also ignoring poor people. Yes, that's always been the spirit of the day. All right. Well, now we've talked about superpowers, I will defer over to the sauce again. He wanted to talk about a weakness or vulnerability, so handing it over to the sauce.
So, like I was saying, one of his biggest weaknesses, I'm going to read this. He is a teenager, and every one of those spaces has a period on it.
I like your
sauces. And he is right. His notes, he, period, is, period, a, period, teenager, period.
Yes.
I wrote down more simply youth. Is youth. Now we're thinking about this. We're gonna get into some favorite scenes and everything soon. But when he meets his date's dad.
Oh yeah, don't talk too much about that right now. But yeah.
No, but his inexperience as a person led him to not be as careful with his words. And you see that in there, and that led to some other things going on.
Furious Girl, do you have any vulnerable? Bleh, you know what I'm trying to say?
Stuff.
Yes.
Weaknesses?
I just said stuff.
Oh, okay. Stuff.
That's literally what I wrote.
Well, if I may expound on the stuff, you saw it so many times. He was distracted. That kid, he had people talking to him. In fact, the reason his friend Ned found out who he was so soon in the movie is because Ned was telling him at school hey, I'm going to come by your house later so we can build the Death Star together. I'm going to be around at this time, blah, blah, blah. Peter was not paying attention to Ned because he was looking at Liz. He was checking out the girl at school, and you heard it just fade out of his consciousness. He was like, I'm over there.
That is extremely normal.
And yes, it is. But that also led him to when he's crawling. He's crawling on the ceiling into his house. He's all quiet. He's like getting the door shut, and he lands and he turns around, and Ned is just sitting there, and then down goes the Death Star. Blah! Legos everywhere. So distraction is totally
don't fret. There was a scene later in the movie where they rebuilt it.
That's right. And Dad Abides, could you tell us about how much was that Lego set, or what were you talking about, the Millennium Falcon?
There currently is a $800 Millennium Falcon that is
7,000 something one.
Yeah, 7,500 pieces, $800. This one was 3,800 pieces. So the Millennium Falcon surpasses all the other ones, and we want to get it. But that's 800 bones, and we're not going to get it because we have no place to put it.
We really have no place to even build it.
I was the first one who wanted it. I literally said I wanted to buy it. I said that, and I said I was going to pay for it.
And she stands by that.
And I mean it. I will buy it.
Dad probably wanted it before you were born, but
It wasn't out before she was born.
yes, it was.
A Millennium Falcon was, but not this Millennium Falcon.
Lego Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, they did when before she was born, but it was only about 1,500 pieces, I think.
It wasn't to this level.
7,500 pieces.
Yeah, but Dad still wanted it first.
And then he drops it. I felt for him. You're like, oh. And how many of those pieces were lost forever? Just like down the vent of the sauce's room.
What?
Like your vent.
Yeah, you've got a vent that has eaten some Legos in our past. All right, let's talk about the villains. And Toombs actually is the villain. He plays the Vulture. He has placed as the number 6 spot for our family's ranking of the MCU villains.
Mostly my purpose.
I was right there with you. So the villain is played by Michael Keaton, the one and only Michael Keaton. And I did read some trivia where apparently he was making all kinds of lines from Batman in this movie when he was in behind the scenes and cracking people up. Because that's where he's from. I mean, he's not a stranger to comic book heroes or villains. He was the Tim Burton version of Batman. But man, he is a great villain in this. And one that you empathize with, you totally get it. And he's got a very complex, awesomely established villain in this movie.
Michael Keaton will only play superhero movies with those characters having wings. So he was in Birdman, Batman. Now he's a Vulture. Kids, talk to me about some Toombs here.
His first name
Adrian Toombs?
Is it Adrian Toombs?
I think so.
Mandarin.
It's not the Mandarin.
It's not fruit.
He's not a fruit.
So what are your thoughts on Toombs?
Yeah.
Was he scary? Did you find him scary? Did you find him intimidating?
I found him like, hey, look, a bird. Oh, wait, no, it's coming to kill me. And then I died, and I don't feel anything because I'm dead too quick, and I'm like, I don't have an impression.
Okay. Give us some thoughts, Furious Girl.
Question mark? I don't know.
Thoughts on the Vulture.
He can fly.
He can fly. Okay.
Yes.
Well, out of the mouth of kids, it is Adrian Toombs, and he was high on my list because he's super empathetic. You know, being a guy who has a job, being somebody who has to work for a living like he does, trying to, make it in this world. You can totally empathize with him. He makes some bad choices. Instead of doing what he should do, he makes a lot of money doing what maybe he shouldn't do, but he feels justified in it because of what has happened to him in his past and, what happens with Tyne Daly's character. Again, going along the formula, and a great formula, of having a very minor, one-day character come in who is an A-list style, A-list caliber actor, actress. Tyne Daly can hold her own against anybody.
What? Who? When? Where? How?
No, she was the one that came in and says,
White hair.
yeah, I'm the Department of Cleanup or whatever it was. What was it called?
Department of Damage Control.
Damage Control. So what about Damage Control? It's Hydra, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yes. And some of the damage control had to be Hydra because of the salvaging and stuff.
Right. And what did we see that Toombs was salvaging? He was right next to one of those giant Chitauri worms that ends up in what movie?
Age of Ultron, okay. Age of Ultron. And I would also like to point out that was actually the thing that Hulk and Thor took down together.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember that?
And ended up in Grand Central Station.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Very nice. Tie together.
Yeah, and that's
yeah,
where
it is
and then
Grand Central
the punch, the infamous Hulk punch.
So, were there any other villains in this film? I mean, I felt there were a few that were kind of offshoot villains. Tombs being the major one. What do you think? What do you guys got? Anybody else? The fake Avengers.
Just the criminal element of New York, right?
Anybody else? I feel like that might have been about it.
One of the main characters was the Shocker, right? Remember that was like Spider-Man 2, Andrew Garfield's The Amazing Spider-Man 2, whatever it was. He was the Shocker, but he became electrified. He just had some weaponry and was, messing people around. But the Tinkerer, these were all Adrian Toomes' people, right? One person still at large is the Tinkerer. He's the one that made all of that tech.
That's right.
So bad guy tech. What do you think?
Nothing else. I don't have anything.
Okay, let's skip down to the Stan Lee cameo. It happened a little early on in the movie. Who remembers what the scene was where Stan Lee appeared?
He appeared when Spider-Man attacked some person who was trying to get to his car and thought that he was robbing, and Stan Lee was doing stuff.
Was he yelling out the window?
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Hey, was it?" His name was Gary, I think. Gary.
Let me tell you about Gary.
Willis, what about you? Do you have anything to add about the Stan Lee cameo?
It was good. Wait, I rated it 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought that's what you need to Stan Lee. Just some other person in the movie. This one he was just a neighbor, and they're all yelling across the alley. You could totally relate to it. That's how you do a Stan Lee cameo. I thought it was really well done. It was great.
And my rating was 1 out of 10.
Oh, didn't like it, huh?
Nah.
Not a fan. I liked it just because it did feel very New York neighborhood where everybody, those people all are used to like leaning out their windows and yelling at each other and yelling at people down and be like, "What's up, Gary? Hello, Mildred. I haven't seen you in a while. How's your mother?" Blah, blah, blah. That's how neighbors do it. They don't have porches so much, but they have windows that face each other. All right, so let's dodge into the battles and fight scenes. We had a few, and I definitely know which ones are my favorites, but we had the van chase kind of toward the middle or toward the beginning where Peter, instead of going to the party, he, sees some nefarious activity going in the suburbs. Do you guys recognize where he's so used to swinging from building to building and suddenly he had nothing and so he actually had to run across the golf course? It sucks. And the sprinklers came on too, I think, right then, which was funny.
But they're not like sprinklers we have at school. It's just like a steady stream. And I think he dodged all of them. But
You got wet, I bet.
The ATM fight was before that, I do believe, where he fought the Avengers.
yeah.
Because in every movie, we want to see all the good guys fight each other. It's a thing in the MCU. And it kind of bothers me a little bit to see that. But this time, they were just wearing cheap masks.
And guess what? Hulk finally lost. But that's a fake Hulk.
Fake Hulk. Then we had the Washington Monument. So we had I wouldn't call it a fight at all, like when he...
That was an action set piece, not really a fight scene.
Yeah, that's true. But not really a fight scene, not really a battle, but he was basically just trying to get there. I like that one a lot because, it just was really cool to see him actually finally kind of appear with his friends, and Ned finally got the satisfying, like, yes, Spider-Man's saving us, and legit was saving them. But it figures in later, it was important that he saved everyone, including Liz, in that scene. The ferry, the Staten Island ferry, where he tries to go in and he's trying to stay under the radar and he doesn't want Tony to know, and he goes in and he is trying to foil whatever the deal is that Toomes has set up with was that Scorpion, that guy, the kind of skinhead guy?
Yeah, he had a scorpion on his neck. It was never really, listed as the Scorpion, just a gangster.
So that is one of my favorites because you do just see the power of Peter. He's also kind of got a comeuppance because Iron Man has to show up and actually finish the job for him. But how he tries his hardest to save the ferry. And then that's that epic scene. And this is right up there with when you see Cap holding the helicopter down, when you see him holding the two pieces of the ferry. Now, this is like a multi-ton heavy piece of boat and he's basically just holding it. By sheer strength he was holding it together, and then he feels it ease up because of Iron Man, but he had it wasn't going any farther, but it was just a question of how much longer he could have done that, right? Any opinions on the ferry battle?
I do believe. Yeah.
Well said.
Yes, very eloquent. Indeed.
I have nothing, so goodbye.
It had Droney pops out. We see what's going on, and this is where Toomes gets, this is where Spider-Man gets a shot of Toomes. He sees his face. Saw who he was, didn't know that it was Liz's dad. Spoiler alert.
Nah.
I know. But that comes back into the next scenes, favorite tense scenes in there. But it was very well done. It had to happen where he failed because of his inexperience and youth. And Toomes says, "You're messing with things you don't understand." It was right.
Yes.
So the Vulture was correct in his assessment. I mean, he's a kid, right? That's his biggest weakness. So Tony giving him an Iron Spider suit, or basically a skin-tight Spider-Man, Iron Man suit, probably wasn't the best thing to do. I don't give these kids keys to the car.
Yeah, agreed.
Right?
Yes, you do. I like lose him down my vent.
Oh, man. Yeah, you would.
Well, and it does show a little ignorance on Tony's part to not realize that, of course, he's a teenager. I mean, he's just a teenager, but also a very intelligent one. And he's not recognizing enough. This kid he wants so badly to put his powers to good use. Going back to what he said to Tony in Civil War, remember he's like, if bad things happen and you have the power to stop it, they happen because of you. Right. So this kid wants to get in there and do stuff. And he has other reasons too. You can tell he wants to be an Avenger. He wants to be a superhero. He wants to be recognized for that.
And Tony's not exactly the fatherly type.
Tony is not the fatherly type. And he didn't have the fatherly type, so he comes by it honestly, for sure. But he didn't realize that you give that much of a weapon, which it really is, an effective weapon in the suit to a teenager, that he's not going to try. I mean, all they did was they found out the training wheels protocol. Did anyone else find it a little unbelievable that Ned was able to crack the training wheels protocol and take that off?
No, because these are Midtown Science. These are the best of the best, right? Ned is the guy in the chair. Of course he's going to crack it.
Well, actually, it said training rules protocol, and it said active. You could just click on that and it turns into not active.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was something he was recoding it. He was just activating something that was already there. He wasn't programming something. He found the access port to the suit, has to be programmed somehow, So it doesn't seem to be that unbelievable any more than walking on ceilings or flying wingsuits.
I also wonder if Droney and Redwing are ever going to encounter each other, because Redwing, as you know, is the little miniature drone-ish thing that belongs to Falcon. The one that Black Widow will not thank. She will not thank him. She's not thanking that thing.
Or petting it.
Or petting it.
Or acknowledging it. Right.
Yeah. And lastly was the plane battle and fight scene where Peter, he does, after he gets out from all that rubble, he's able to get up and, web sling onto Toomes fast enough to be drug up to the plane, and then it kind of gets involved with that, which leads to the plane crashing and that final battle between those two where he saves Toomes' life. I liked the ferry scene better than the plane scene. I really did. It was more satisfying to me, even though he fails at it, but it was a little more epic feeling to me.
Well, it's more of the favorite scenes. It's more of a plot point, too, where he has to lose his suit. We see him as Spider-Man fully suited in Civil War.
Yeah.
Right? So he was introduced to us. This isn't an origin story. We hear, Spider bit him, Spider's dead, can't do it. I've had these for about 6 to 9 months now. It was 6 months after he got bit that Civil War happened.
Yeah.
And then this is, 3 months later? It's a while later that...
It said 2 months later, actually, was when he was still kind of texting happy
It was
forever.
on the train with everybody else.
Okay. So a couple months later. So 8 weeks later. So he hasn't had his powers all that long. We don't need an origin story for a third time for the same character.
Agreed.
Now, I want to have a point about Toomes' character. This was we had a much more in-depth origin on his villainy in this one, which rated him up there. So we have a very well-developed, very evil, if you will, formidable villain.
Yeah.
He's not as powerful. He doesn't have super strength, but he's definitely got the, to be a villain.
Now, I like what you said, too, because actually you do get a little sniff of that, of the origin of it. Do you remember when Ned is asking Peter, he's saying, well, can I tell everyone? can I, do I have to keep a secret? Let's tell Aunt May. And he's like, no, nobody can know. I can't do that to Aunt May, not after everything she's been through. So it kind of alludes to Uncle Ben having died a little bit. It doesn't mention it outright, but that is part of Spider-Man's origin story, is that he's got his powers, and then his Uncle Ben is still a force in his life, but his Uncle Ben dies, and so he has to kind of find that path. So you don't even get that out of that line, but anyone who knows Spider-Man's story knows that he had an uncle married to Aunt May, who was kind of like his dad, and he dies. So you don't even get that in this movie, but you know, anyone who knows Spider-Man knows it. And
you don't need it in this movie.
You don't need it in this movie.
You don't need it anymore, really.
But it does point to the fact, too, he doesn't have a father figure. Tony kind of, by default, becomes that. Although I like at the end where it seems like Happy kind of is like, nah, man, I'm taking care of this kid. He's like, I'll be right behind you. I'll be, a loose follow. I'd like to start with Georgia for this one, if you guys can kind of get ready with your notes. Let's start talking about those favorite characters, scenes, and lines. And I'm going to hand this over to Furious Girl first.
I literally wrote nothing, just nothing.
You didn't like any of the lines or anything? Mm-mm. Really?
No.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, favorite scenes and lines, right? So that one guy who's high pitched, and tells Spider-Man, do a flip, and Spider-Man does a flip, and you hear him, yeah.
Yeah, the street hot dog guy.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I did like a lot of it.
And as well, interrogation mode,
Interrogation mode.
then they're like, I'm not a boy. I'm not a boy. I'm a boy. Man, I'm not a girl. I'm a man.
Instant kill mode.
And yeah, activating instant kill mode. No, I don't want to kill anyone.
Stop trying to kill everybody.
Yeah. And my last one is the last scene we see until we go to the credits. What the?
Yeah. That was a good one. I did like Peter's film. And I like the extended Peter's film that's in the home video extras. That one was so much better. But I was like, oh, and you see he's all talking. He's at the Battle of Berlin, I guess what that's called.
Yeah.
And over his shoulder, Giant Man comes out. Ant-Man turns into the Giant Man, and he's grabbing Rhodey. He's like, oh, gotta go. Exactly, right?
Under Ruth.
Exactly. So all that, from that point of view, tied everything together with Civil War. Because who saw Civil War? Almost everybody. It made, $1.2 billion? Everybody saw that movie. They saw what was going on. And maybe not, but, a lot of people did. The immediate little gray area talk. Don't do anything I would do. Wait, don't do anything I wouldn't do. There's a little gray area in between. That's where you live. Yeah. I like that one. The Web 3.0 scene. He was talking about being distracted. He was in science class, acing his grades while inventing other web in his little station there. Yeah, gravity cancels out, so it's just sine times mass. So it's like, all those other kind of crazy things in there. The Training Wheels Protocol, I did like that one as it was coming off. Like after it came off, like he was doing his, how many web shooters? There's 256 different web combinations and all this other stuff in 37 minutes. Trying to get my kids to sit together for 37 seconds. Oh,
right,
yeah.
It looks like with the cuts, it's like, oh, he's been there for several hours. It's like, how long have we been here? 37 minutes. What? We gotta get out of here.
It's so good. The kisser scene. This is during the monument. He's upside down, and Cameron's like, "This would be opportunity. This is perfect time to kiss her," and he falls. That's the best part.
It's like saying, "And no."
We know this other things happened. Yes. All that other thing. But my absolute favorite scene. Because he's doing this thing, there's a montage, because even Rocky had a montage, where they're trying to figure out how to tie a tie. So he and his aunt are trying to tie a tie, because Uncle Ben has passed. There's no guy in his life. She doesn't tie ties, right? So they're trying to tie, figures it out, gets all spiffed up, do, happy music, opens his door, boom, silence, no music, Tombs. Hey. And he's all like trying to be the intimidating but nice guy dad, like, yeah, I don't want my daughter dating, but I'm not going to be a complete jerk about this. We'll see what happens when Georgia has a date.
Oh, Lord.
Ugh. But, I know. But that scene right there, you could cut the tension with a Tarantino butter knife.
That was That was totally Tarantino's suspense right there. It was very... So Quentin Tarantino is a movie maker that Daddy and I both really like, and we both said that no one creates a scene of suspense where you're just like, what's gonna happen next? Nobody creates that as well as he does. So the whole scene with Peter meeting Toombs and realizing this is Liz's dad.
The music, the tone, the cinematography.
Great. All right, so I'll wrap up this with a few of my own. So you guys have said pretty much all the ones I wrote down, but I have a few more. Did anybody notice at the very beginning, it's the Spider-Man theme music when the movie starts?
Yes.
I geek out so hard every time.
It's mixed up with like Marvel's.
That's okay.
It's mixed in.
That's okay because I do every time
How does the Spider-Man thing go?
Nah.
do 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 do. That's so great. It's so if there's anyone else listening to this podcast who loves Spider-Man with all your being, like I have all my life, is just like, it's just so satisfying. I'm just like, that music just gets me geared. And I feel like they knew that. I feel like they realized this is such a...
Sony owns that music.
He's a major superhero. I mean, I still remember back, do you remember watching Electric Company on TV, and they had a little Spider-Man,
that was the best part of Electric Company.
it was a live action Spider-Man.
Go, "Bow," and this black net would just like...
It was great. And that's when I first started watching Spider-Man.
And
It's way before your time. But those are for the adults out there who are probably Gen X and older. But yeah, it was great. So that just gets me. It doesn't matter if I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna watch Spider-Man, and then we see that I'm like, it's Spider-Man. I did love enhanced interrogation mode. Rue, what are you doing? Tell me where we're going.
I'm not a boy. I'm a boy. I'm not a girl. I'm a man.
And you're like, you've never done this before, have you? I loved Spider-Man holding the ferry together. I already mentioned that. The car ride after, so that in my opinion is one of the best scenes. Now, and it just drives back to when it is not easy to make a very memorable, awesome, weighty scene like that. They are all in the same, they're sitting. It's not an action sequence. It's all drama. It's all lines. And that scene just so... my gut gets all clenchy the whole time because you see Toombs doing the math. And he's like, I know who this kid is.
And for the record, when I say meeting Toombs, from the time he ties his tie and rings the bell, it's from then until he leaves the car and goes into Homecoming.
Yes.
That's what that is, Homecoming dance.
Yes.
So that's why it's called Homecoming, because it all takes place on that night.
That's right. So yeah, so both of you and I share that. That was just a really good one. I do love the line Tony says to him, which is very much what Tony experienced. If you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it. Which
is something that Tony had to learn.
Yeah.
In Iron Man 3.
That's right. Tony had to learn that and that was one thing Pepper kept saying. She's like, the suits are a distraction, be who you are, and you don't have to, these are not your life. So he had to realize that and had to have help with that. But I do love that he tells Peter that, and you can see Peter panicking like a teenager would. Like if I told you guys, I'm like, Georgia, I'm going to take your paints away, your paintbrushes, or I'm going to take away Willis's Legos. You'd probably be like, well, there's that. But you'd be distraught. You'd be like, Dad, that's my life. And like, no, because if you need to be able to be something without this. What if you didn't have all of those things? You have to be who you can be, the best you can be without all those things. Good. Well, see, that was a teachable moment. So I loved that. I loved the pushing off of the rubble where, and for anyone who suffers from any level of claustrophobia, that was a rough scene because you see Peter and he's just got all the stuff weighing down on him. He can't get out. He's stuck.
That's not claustrophobia.
Yeah.
Claustrophobia is just thinking everything's closing in on you, right?
Because you're surrounded. It's a irrational fear. That's what the phobia comes.
There's for anyone who's read Chronicles of Narnia, one of the books is called The Silver Chair. And it's the hardest book for me to read because at one point, the kids who are kind of the heroes in the story have to crawl through tunnels to get down to this underground layer. And it talks at one point about the girl gets stuck. Like she gets stuck in a very shallow little part of the tunnel. And I hate that part because every time I'm just like, if you're stuck and you've got miles of earth above you.
Can't see.
And you can't see and you can start easily being like, I'm stuck, I can't breathe, I can't move. That's claustrophobia. And That's what I feel. So I very much felt that during that scene. I thought they did such a good, and he's panicking. You can hear him in his voice. He's like, help me, help, help, help. And he just has that moment where he kind of centers down and, becomes quiet. And he remembers what Tony says. He's like, if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it. And he realizes like, I don't need the suit right now. I don't have the suit right now, but I have to get out of here to save my own life. And so he pushes the rubble off himself. And that's epic to me. And then lastly, yes, the what the at the end of at the very end of the movie when apparently Aunt May just made a discovery. And so Aunt May knows. Now with that,
the good storylines for the sequel.
That's right. So mid and end credit scenes. Who remembers what the mid credit scene was? Anybody remember what that was?
It was when Toombs was in jail, incarcerated, and the Scorpion guy comes up to him and says, "Word on the streets, you know who Spider-Man is?" And Toombs is like, "If I knew who he was, he'd already be dead."
Protecting him or saving him for himself. Probably saving
Or he just has this crazy messed up sense of honor too, where he was just gonna be that guy. However, we can explore this because he, the Vulture, survives this one. It can be a recurring enemy. We don't know. We know that we're not going to get the Kingpin because that belongs in the Marvel Netflix cinematic universe part of it. Although that would be an amazing if Vincent D'Onofrio would be in the second one as Kingpin against Spider-Man. That would be
epic.
Intense. But the second one,
End credit scene.
the end credit scene.
Do you remember what it is?
Captain America.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
I remember watching this, and it comes out. So you got detention. And tell you about whatever patience. You ever feel like you just waited for everything and it just wasn't worth it, and it just ends. I'm like,
And how many more?
that's
of
the
these?
best.
Right? I remember sitting in the theater because, that is what we do. When you go to see Marvel movies, you should know that you need to stay to the end all the way through the credits. So if you have not done that, why? You need to do it.
The Pavilions, Denver Theater, downtown, and the downtown pavilions. Why are you raising the lights for any Marvel movie?
That's right, guys.
Fix your escalator.
So, so we have the Captain America. I don't know. Dad abides and I probably find a little more humor in this than anyone else because you do get.
Seen these things.
They've got some famous person doing some public service announcement. They show a video in the class. Yes.
G.I. Joe's and the thing. Don't light fires with butane.
When you have a bloody nose, pinch it and lean forward. Don't lean back. You might choke on the blood. And the what's the knowing is half the battle. Go Joe. So what did you guys rate the mid-credit scene for the prison sequence? I'm going to hand it to Georgia first.
5.
Out of 10?
Yes, because who the heck is Scorpion?
I give it a 7 because you got more Michael Keaton.
Yes.
Okay, 1, Georgia, how do you know that not know Scorpion is? We'll look it up in a second. And 2, okay. And 2, I can't even put this into words. Negative 256 or...
You just thought it was boring, right?
Okay.
I thought that was one of the worst things ever.
I gave it an 8 out of 10. I liked it because I thought I still love Michael Keaton. I do personally believe that his sense of honor is that he was protecting Peter by saying that he doesn't know who he is. Because that same sense of honor, the fact that Peter saved his daughter was what said, I'm going to give you one chance to walk away from this. He does have a sense of honor, and it's messed up, and he's got priorities, but, he's going about it the wrong way. But I think that kicked in. And then, okay, so let's get ratings. We'll go in the same order, starting with Furious Girl. Please rate the Captain America end credit scene.
10 out of 10. Furry happiness.
Furry happiness. I also give it a 10 because it was just so a letdown because we're wanting to get a Thor Ragnarok, ending on there, a tie into that one, but it doesn't tie into Thor Ragnarok at all, this movie.
It is funny.
It's hilarious. That's why I gave it a 10. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's funny, but it wasn't that good.
Okay, well, what's your rating?
7.5.
Okay.
You still gave it a B plus right there.
That's still pretty
C
good.
plus,
That's at
rather.
least a C.
That's a C. And in terms of grades, you gave it a C.
Better than most of my grades.
Degrees, man.
C's do good grades. But you should still try to get A's and B's. All right, and so I rate it, the end of the Captain America, I do give it a 10 out of 10 because it was basically like Marvel saying, Suckers. We know you're all still sitting there waiting and watching, and so does Captain America. And it was funny. And also, if you guys have the Blu-ray, look at the extended features.
Rapping with Cap.
You get all of those bits of the rapping with Cap, and they're pretty darn funny. So you need to watch those. All right, before we do overall rating, give me your half-hour screen time. What are you going to spend your half-hour screen time on this week? I'm going to get Willis first.
I honestly don't know.
Well, I'm
Play by
really
ear
glad.
every day.
I was really in suspense to know what you were going to say.
Zelda and Overwatch.
And maybe a little
clap,
Minecraft.
clap, clap, clap.
And for those of you who keep wondering what this half-hour screen time is, and you hear the kids talk about video games, once we've reviewed Infinity War, the next season of this podcast is going to be about video games, kicking off with you guys are going to teach us how to play Minecraft.
And you're,
and
you're gonna be lame at it.
We're totally going to be lame at it.
I call teaching.
It's okay.
Mom, and Willis will teach Dad.
Oh, and
We'll have
one more
two
thing.
separate parts.
We need like a video to those podcasts.
We can totally.
We will totally hook up maybe the 360 camera for that one.
Yeah,
you know,
or some screen sharing. Or
Yeah, we'll do some video for those, but we're gonna have a discussion on Zelda. So us three will discuss it with Lady Disdain, who doesn't play it, and that will be the first 2 weeks. And then the third one, we're gonna go through the Uncharted series,
Nice.
like the whole series. But
And then Mom will teach us Tomb Raider.
right after those three, we have the Han Solo movie.
Oh,
So we're
nice.
gonna go into series 2.5 will be Star Wars heavy. We're gonna start with Han Solo, which will be a immediate reaction review podcast, and then we're gonna go into maybe 1 or 2 weeks of rating all the other movies. We will have seen Han Solo probably twice each by then, and then we'll rank them, and then we're gonna have a Star Wars midsummer deal, and then the kids will go on hiatus because they are traveling across the country after those ones. So that's just a little preview of what's coming this summer.
Before we do that stuff, we're going to have videos, as So the Sauce said, and we are also going to have like different parts for the Minecraft where I teach Mom and
Right.
Willis teaches Dad, and we'll have different parts of the video, like maybe I'll be first or Willis be first teaching
I like it. Either way, you're going to know way more than us.
to
That's
see
totally okay.
who teaches better.
All right. Well, that took about a half hour to talk about that. All right. So,
Yes.
overall rating is next. Our overall rating for each member of Unposit from this for this movie, I chose for a unit of measurement, larbs.
I larb you.
I larb you, and
I think the waiter larbs you.
I mostly liked that because during that scene, Willis or the sauce looked over at me and goes, "That's so you, Mom. I larb you." Now, for anyone wondering what the heck a larb is, because I sure was, I looked it up.
It's too larby.
A larb is a type of Lao meat salad that is regarded as the unofficial national dish of Laos. It is also eaten in the Isan region, an area of Thailand where the majority of the population is of the Lao ethnicity. Main ingredient is meat. So it's chicken, beef, duck, turkey, pork, or fish. That's a larb. That's larb. So I larb you. I larb each one of you, and I want to hear how much you larb this movie, 1 to 10.
On a scale of 1 to 10 larbs, I gave this one 9.5 larbs. I really enjoy this movie, and I think I enjoy it most because of the villain in this one.
I gave it 9 out of 10. This isn't the best one. It was pretty good. And some of those points are for the villain.
Nice.
9 out of 10 is pretty good.
I give it 5 out of 10. It wasn't that happy.
Okay. 5 out of 10 larbs.
Goodbye-ness.
I gave it 10 out of 10 larbs. I'm sure you're shocked, but I really do. I love Spider-Man. I thought they did a great homage to it overall. They did not, which I was afraid of, they did not overkill it. I have seen all of the Spider-Man movies. I have seen the ones with Tobey Maguire. Hated the last one because, oh my God, I fell asleep. I liked Andrew Garfield in those. So I've seen all of those. I really was thinking, oh my God, really? We're doing another one. We're doing this again. And I was fine. So 10 out of 10 larbs.
Gonna go over some box office.
Give me some box office.
What do you think this made opening weekend?
I wonder if people had Spider-Man fatigue, but were really excited he was joining the Marvel Universe. So I'm gonna say 91 million.
Higher than that. It made 117 million.
Dang.
Pretty good opening weekend. However, last year was not a very good year. Worldwide, it did $880 million.
Wow.
So
Wow.
did well.
Yeah, it did.
It had a huge drop the second weekend, 62% for the second weekend. So it dropped a lot, but it stayed in for a while. Ragnarok only made $853 million worldwide. And it's a
Only
much
$853 million.
better movie. I know. We're taking this in with a grain of salt because Black Panther made, so much money.
Yeah, it still is.
Civil War made so much money. Age of Ultron made so much money. And Avengers made so much money. Like, we have these, spikes in there. So there was a Forbes article. It's like, well, if Infinity War only makes $800 million, is that not enough? And it might not be. It might have cost the Marvel, Disney, Brain Trust, whatever. It is rumored that both movies were filmed, Avengers, Infinity War, and the next Avengers, Avengers 4, were filmed back to back. They are, I don't know, currently filming or what. I don't know what the deal is on that one. Not a Hollywood insider. That's why I like talking about this, because I'm not an insider. But it is rumored that both those together cost $1 billion. Like, the cost was $1 billion. They just said, well, we can do it, no matter what the stars want. We're just going to pay it. Do it. So if they don't make that money back, it could be a problem.
Right.
Which means together they have to make $2 billion. The rumors are, and the prognostications, if this is a good movie, this one might make $2 billion on its own. Good. Infinity War. Ragnarok came out a little bit later. There was 3 MCU movies: Guardians 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Thor Ragnarok. All came out in 2017. They all made a buttload of money, but I think having the 3 movies really kind of brought it down. But we're getting 3 this year. Yeah. Black Panther, Infinity War,
and then Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Ant-Man and the Wasp is going to be really good. Really.
So you're going to get a bit of an accelerated publishing frequency of these podcasts because we have to get all these out before Infinity War releases. So if you are listening to these, you're probably getting these at about now twice a week versus every Monday morning. But that's just because we need to make sure you get all the things you want to cover this stuff and recap everything before we hit Infinity War. So thank you guys for listening. Remember, you can write us at P.O. Box 1343, Englewood with an E, Englewood, Colorado 80150, or visit us at unposit.com, where you can follow us on social media as well. Thank you guys for listening.
Unposit is on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. Subscribe today, and hey, give us a review and let us know how we're doing.